So today we are going to see the SCD2 implementation. So typically, first of all, we'll try to understand what is SCD2 before we develop the mapping. The difference between SCD1 and SCD2 is, in case of SCD1, if there are if the record exists in target, we are going to just update the existing record. If the record does not exist, we will insert. So this is usual thing, but however, the process is bit different in case of SCD2 implementation. SCD in the sense slowly changing dimensions. So in case of SCD2, we need history. We need to retain history because we want to know what exactly have been modified. How would we know? We need to retain the previous record. So how are we going to retain the previous information? So for that, so what are we going to do is in the mapping. So if a record is not present, we can insert it. Fine. If a record is present, then there are two options now. One is if the changes happened on SCD columns or changes happened on other non-SCD columns. So the thing is, if the changes happened on the SCD defined attributes, then we have to capture history because in a typical table, don't expect all the columns are SCD columns. So we may have only few attributes defined as SCD. So in that case, what are we going to do is, if there is any change in the SCD column, then we are going to inactivate or make the record as some as in there is some attribute called current indicator. We will flip the current indicator. We'll say whatever record which already exists in target is not a current indicator. We will end date it and then we will freshly insert a new record. So the thing is, if the record does not exist, we can directly insert the record. If the record exists, if the change is on non-SCD column, then we can directly insert it because there is nothing to capture history because the change had happened on non-SCD column. What if the change happens on SCD column? If the change happens on SCD column, we are going to retain the existing record. Along with that, on the existing record, we will do two changes. We will flip the current indicator from Y to N, as well as there is something called effective end date and effective start date in SCD tables. So for the effective end date, we should be populating with the current date because the record was effective till today's date, till today when I updated it. And we will insert a new record with effective date today's date because we are saying the record is effective from today. So let's try to incorporate that logic. So before incorporating that logic, I need to do two changes. So we have a table employee in our database, but then employee table does not have effective start date or effective end date or current indicator. Let me try to add all those columns to the employee table. Alter table employee, add effective start date, effective start timestamp also we can say, effective start timestamp, give date timestamp. And there is another column, so which means it's not just a date. So if the validity is based on the particular time, then we can drill down to that level, granularity. The effective end date, at what date and time it was actually the record is effective. And then we need another record to determine which record is latest record. So that is nothing but the current indicator. Current indicator, we can retain, I'll have it integer. So it can be 1 or 0. 1 means current indicator whenever it is 1, it is active record. Whenever it is 0, it is inactive. In other words, it can be a varchar also, wherein y means active and n means inactive. You can have an active indicator also. It depends on the conventions a project uses. So let me try to import this definition, target definition, target designer, targets, import from database. I'll connect to the database. I'll try to filter the employee table, search, then it gets narrowed down to the table. I will select the table. So we click on apply to all tables and then replace. So now if I want to update, we need to have a primary key. I don't have any key defined. So I'm trying to define the primary key on the Informatica level itself on the employee table. Perfect. Let's try to create employee SCD employee mapping, which is capable of achieving the SCD functionality, SCD2 functionality. So mapping name m_employee. You can say stage to XFM or stage to transform. So if it is if we are having staging data, or it's up to us. We can even say employee load. So let me try to pull in the source. So the source is employees. So it needs to have a hash. So that is mandatory. So irrespective of whether it is SCD2 or SCD1, our source is kind of mandatory. As an MD5 hash should be mandatory. So let's try to pull in this employees. So perfect. So this is our source from HR schema. Then now, so we have already created a maplet, so which is capable of performing the SCD. So before that, probably let me try to perform some manipulations. So I don't want it to be very simple. So it can have a many number of lookups. So as in when we are loading, so as when we are getting data from source, most of the scenarios it would have had some lookups or something like that. So I will try to add a lookup which is capable of looking upon same employees table, and then it would retrieve me the manager name. So we have a name column. So we will be populating the manager based on manager ID. We will be populating the corresponding manager name also in the employee table. So rather than referring, so we can probably make use of that. So I am interested in only first name. Yeah, perfect. I can do that. So if you want, even we can retrieve the manager's manager ID and then populate it. So again, it's up to our requirement. So corresponding to the manager ID, we are looking upon where manager ID is matching with employee ID. We want to retrieve the corresponding first name. So that is the whole intention. Yeah, perfect. So now we'll see how SCD behaves. So I have maplet. So maplet MD5. Maplet MD5. So this maplet is nothing but an SCD maplet. So in SCD maplet, think about only the things which will go to the MD5 is value hash. If you try to include key, so every key, if the key changes, obviously value changes. But the whole point is corresponding to a key, whether the value SCD columns changed or not is what matters. So let's suppose if an employee's manager got changed. So if you want to retain that information as in, okay, this employee corresponding, like he worked corresponding to which all managers. If I want to store that information, so I can, so this is my potential candidate for SCD. So manager information is an SCD. So we call type 2 attributes. So these attributes. So the length is 20 and my input is 50. So I can always map it to the maplet. So which is fine here. So let me see if I have any potential things which can possibly change. Okay, if there is any change in name, usually this is not a potential candidate. So names, they don't change frequently. I don't want to retain such history. Email ID does not change. Phone number. So because if an employee's phone number changed over the period of time, I want to see which all phone numbers he had earlier. Salary, if I want to see the changes in the salary, I can retain this. These are the three potential candidates I can think of. So which means if there is any change in phone number, employee phone number, or employee manager got changed, or employee salary is changed, I want to retain the history. It need not necessarily be 3 columns change. MD5 will change if hash will change if any of the columns value changes. So these 3 columns I am considering. So now I will have a target lookup. So this lookup is source lookup itself just to fetch the employee's manager name. But then I will have a target lookup now, which is going to fetch me the corresponding hash value. So corresponding to the employee ID, what is the hash which is already present in the table. So let me try to remove all the attributes. There are few important things which we need to make sure here. I'll try to retain these fields, current indicator MD5 hash, and then this employee ID. The targets, again I'm repeating, it is a target lookup, not a source lookup. There is no meaning or sense of implementing SCD with a source lookup. So whenever the employee ID is changed, we can retrieve the information to see if it exists or not. Another important aspect here is we need to make sure if the record is current or not. So let's suppose if a manager got changed for a particular employee. So there is a change, we stored the history. Again, he might have been, after doing certain projects, he came back to the previous manager with whom he have worked. So in that case also the change had actually happened. But if we don't filter, we are trying to get the information corresponding to an inactive record. So that is not we wanted. So we have to include whenever we are trying to perform a SCD to make sure SCD2 in specific SCD2 make sure that we are retrieving a target lookup data corresponding to the active records only, because there could be an existing data which is matching, but if it is not active, we are not considering that as a change. But when it will consider as a change, the lookup, whatever value it returned, the hash value is different, then only it will consider as a change. So perfect. Now we'll have a router in place. So the purpose of router is to see whether it is meant for insert, update, or yeah, insert and update, but then we have to do it in a different way. So let me bring in all the columns from the source to router. This is one thing what we are going to do. Let me close this ribbon. I'm selecting selecting all the fields from source, and then I can drag it here. Now I need MD5 hash. I also need two attributes, employee ID from the table and then MD5 hash. So I'll try to rename this MD5 because for comparisons, it will be pretty much not neat. As in, because MD5 is a function, it will not be able to resolve. So we'll have three groups. I'll try to tell you what is the purpose of the three groups. One group is insert. One group is update. Update, probably what I'll do is non-SCD. And then update SCD. We will see the difference between three groups. I'll mention that. So first one, the ports, right? How are we going to consider that as an insert? So there are two ways to think that whether a record is meant for insert. So if the employee ID one, which is coming from the lookup, is null, then also it is meant for an insert. My bad. Should have saved, I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Nothing got saved. So I have quickly added the fields. I made sure I saved it because if it throws any error, we will not lose that configurations, whatever we have done. I'll quickly create through three groups now. One is meant for insert, one is update on SCD, and then update SCD. We can even do with a single thing also, that is perfectly fine. Only thing is we can actually do with only one thing. So let me do that thing. So what I'll do is, instead of defining this MD5 here, MD5 and MD5, these three columns here, let me try to add one indicator. Expression which is meant to understand whether the records are meant for insert, update, or upsert. Upsert means whenever there is something called SCD change, as in any change in the salary or phone number or manager, it is supposed to insert as well as update. So yeah, that thing we need to do it here. So I am pulling in these two fields. I am getting the MD5. I need to add one port MD5_1 and give. Don't want any of those things. I need MD5 this one. Let me to add a flag. So the flag condition is, if is null of, if the employee ID one coming from lookup is null, then it should be an insert, or there is a change in MD5 hash between whatever is there in target and whatever is actually there in generated by the source incoming record. So that time it is an insert. Insert. Okay, and let me try to put it this way. So if there is anything, then it is an insert. Or now if there is any change in MD5, so let's suppose it is not null, which means record exists. So now I am going to validate if the hash got modified or not. Hash modified, which means there is a change in the MD5 as in SCD attributes, any of the SCD attributes got changed. So I am going to say it is upsert, it is meant for upsert, otherwise update. Update means any other information got changed. I need to add one more bracket. So the three things are, if there is no entry active record, but then we are getting some information from source, which means we are going to insert the data. We are not going to manipulate any other information. But then if we have any active record, and then there is a change in MD5 hash, then we are going to update the corresponding entry and then as well as insert a new entry. If there is no change on MD5, we can directly upsert the record. Now the another important concept is okay, this is not required here, so let it be like this flag thing. Now the another important aspect is one way to kind of identify that is now employee ID itself cannot act as a key. If I try to define that as a key, then we cannot uniquely identify the records, because if there is a change on phone number or if there is any change on manager ID, we are inserting new records. So we need to have a surrogate key. So I'm going to define a surrogate key also in addition in the target. Let me try to define that surrogate key, because whatever we are trying to store, capture history, that is not at single level. So let me add a surrogate key also to the target. Alter table add SK employee ID, and then we can populate the default value. So either we can actually do that, should be fine. So now I need to change the lookup a bit. So before that, let me try to import the definition. Target import definition. So again, it is test schema. Test schema. Employee is the table. Such. So here, since SK is going to uniquely identify the record, so we can make SK as a primary key, because there will not be any duplicates at an SK level. So perfect. I made SK as a primary key. If I want that SK to be on the top, I can actually put it to the top here, top of the list. Since it was actually added at the end, so it was coming at the bottom, but then we can always rearrange the columns based on our need. So SK is now on the top and it is primary key. And now I need to recreate the lookup, because we are actually doing based on the SK employee ID, not on employee ID. So let me try to add the lookup again, employee, I'll try to remove all other unnecessary ports other than what is needed. So I'm going to join on employee ID, so I'll retain employee ID. I don't need this effective start date and end date. I'm going to filter on current indicator. Have that current indicator equal to 1, which is a filter. I did not add anything from source. My source will not have the surrogate key because it is not storing history. So I cannot try to look up on some SK. I will still be looking upon employee ID and retrieve the SK. That is same concept. So now instead of employee ID, I will be sending SK employee ID, propagate attributes, will propagate the name, data type, all those things. So now what am I going to do is, this needs to be an output port as well. We are going to output that also. Yeah, perfect. Now all good. So if there is no SK, which means target has no data, so I am going to insert. If the SK exists, if this is not null, which means SK exists, then if the hash is changed, then I am going to perform an upsert instead of update. If the hash is same, if the condition is not matching, that means hash is same, which means there could have been update on some other column. So I am going for an manual update. Perfect. Now let's try to, we need 2 fields from here, 3 fields. One is the hash from map flag, what we have generated, and the SK. SK is meant for, SK is meant for this update, or in order to update, we need SK. That is the driving factor. So let me pull this SK to the top of the list. Employee ID. I'll pull this employee ID to the top of the list. SK employee ID. So we have 2 groups. So I'll say if my flag is insert or upsert, flag in I can use in flag of I or UPS. Either my flag is insert or upsert, then I can insert the record. Now, same logic, but then it is now this time is if it is U or UPS. Perfect. Now we got 2 groups. We need 2 update strategies. Each update strategy, we have to define certain logic that we need to understand. Let me add an update strategy. So when it is a null, so let's suppose when I am defining for insert flow, I am not picking anything corresponding to SK or flag, because when it is insert, always the record will be active. And the second thing is, since the record does not exist, I am least bothered about SK. Perfect. Now we need to populate 2 more things. To start date, we need to populate. So I am going to add a field which is going to have the system date, effective start timestamp. I need to add it here. I have added. Let me try to pull that information from here. So two things, effective start, maybe I'll say current date, current timestamp, that is better, current timestamp, which is nothing but date time, and then I'm going to populate the value here. What was the value? Sys timestamp. Sys timestamp is going to give me time as well as date. Sys timestamp is the variable which I can populate. Now another thing what I need to do is let me change this to a variable port. I definitely need this. v_flag variable. I'll push it up. I'll refer v_flag. Perfect. The intention I'll tell you. We are populating date and time. We need to populate attribute called current indicator. So that is what I am going to derive here. Current indicator. So current indicator, now when I am going to populate, so current indicator for insert I'll populate and current indicator for update so that there will not be any confusion. When it is insert, it is always y as in 1. I need not bother about it. Integer. When it is an update, this is where I need. When it is an update, if it is happening, if it is a UPS, if the variable is an UPS, then it will be an 0. If the flag equal to UPS, then the value will be 0, inactive, else it will be active. Had the change happened on any other records, we are just updating it. So we are not inactivating the record. So this is what we have to do. Yeah, we pulled it off. So these are the two more attributes we need to have in place. Till I see a plus thing, I need to actually, if I see plus, yeah, it will get added. So current timestamp I can populate to effective start date. I need to pull from insert mapping. We are not populating the effective end date whenever it is an active record or insert thing, because effective end date is only for those records where we are inactivating. Current indicator insert, yeah, perfect. I can use it here. Now this is with update strategy for insert. I need to define update property dd_insert. Perfect. So this is done. Now let's try to do it for dd_update. Let me add another update strategy. This time I would need SK because we are going to update the data based on update strategy SK, as in SK is the driving factor here. I'm not interested in any other fields. I'm not picking up a current indicator for I3. That is only required when it is when we are populating. When we are populating insert flow. One more thing we need is I'll populate the effective end date also, EFF end date, same logic, same logic. If it is absurd, then we are going to populate sys timestamp, else it will be null. Sys timestamp, else it will be null. We are not going to populate effective end date if it is not meant for upsert. If it is just an update record, then we don't want to actually inactivate it. If we are updating effective end date with sys timestamp, which means it is as good as inactivating also. Every time, don't think that if our current indicator is 1, so obviously it is not like that. So if the effective end date is populated, which means it is as good as the record got ended. So what we did is we just made sure if the flag is UPS, then only we are and as in updating the sys timestamp, else it will be null. So now we'll add 2 targets. One is for insert and another is for update. Let me just drag it to the right. So this is for insert. I'll add one more thing for update. In addition, I would need one more important transformation, which we will know shortly. So SK I'm not populating. We will see how it is going to be get populated. So employee ID till department. Department will be there. Full name is nothing but manager name. I'll be populating that. Full name is the okay. It should not be from SK employee ID. It should be from employee ID. Now MD5 one is nothing but MD5 hash effective start date, current indicator. For insert flow, never map effective end date. Now we did not have the SK, but SK is primary key. So SK, it is a surrogate key, so it is nothing but a running sequence number. So I'll populate the next one. That's it. And don't never make it reset or something like that. Reset because we are thinking it as a primary key. If we reset, then it is going to have a duplicate. So here the update is based on the SK. So we can actually pull that off from, we need not actually, another important thing is never use a sequence generator for update flow. Update flow, we are updating the record based on the SK, whatever is existing. If you are using a sequence generator, then it is not going to serve the purpose. So I'll try to pull it till here. Then we can populate the remaining fields. We have current indicator, we have effective end date, we have effective start date is nothing but current timestamp. Effective end date, even though I am mapping, if it is meant for only update, the effective end date will be null. So what else we have? MD5 hash, another important attribute. So here I will try to mention DD underscore update, the update strategy for the update flow. Another aspect is what I'll do is I'll just change, I'll rename this to employee underscore insert. And then just to understand what are meant for inserts and what are meant for and when we are actually reviewing it from the monitor, this gives us pretty good picture what is getting updated, what is going for insert. I'm saving this. Let's see if it is valid. Perfect. This is valid. So this is the configurations with respect to SCD. So I am arranging also that it gets arranged properly. So we have a source, we have two lookups. One is for generating the manager name, another is for MD5 hash and then SK. Okay, MD5 hash is not connected, which is a mistake. So I need to connect the MD5 hash. Otherwise, though the data exists, it will return null. So it is a biggest mistake. So we are having a hash generated based on 3 columns. So that we are comparing to understand whether it is meant for insert, update, or upsert. Upsert thing we are going to do when it is a change in SCD columns. Yeah, that is what. So now we are going to create a session, and then we are also, as in, let me try to create a workflow. WF underscore employee. Let me create a session. Map employee load. We'll try to configure a parameter file. We'll define a parameter file and then provide the details, the connection details in the parameter file. Parameter file is very, as in the better designing always should use a parameter file when we are defining any connection details, because from environment to environment, when we are migrating, the connection names might be different. It will be very difficult to go to each and every mapping and then change the values. But then it becomes very easy to update a particular file. So when I have to come to a workflow, click on each session, update it, it is going to be very tedious. So what I'm going to do is in Enfa shared directory, we have BW param, or we can use any parameter file, as in I can use even source file directory also, because it has PM source is a configured parameter as an inbuilt parameter. So what I'm going to do is WF underscore employee, I'm giving with the name of the workflow param. So this is what the parameter file name, what I am actually defining. So now the important aspect here is, so in this square brackets, I need to define the session name. So now I can define my parameter names. So parameter names, one is $db src equal to $db tgt. If we see, so there are certain variables where we need to use $, certain variables where we need to use a single dollar. Especially when we are defining something like a connection variables, it uses a single dollar only. I'll go here. If you see the relation, it is using $source $target. So it is a single dollar. So instead of using in infa underscore orcl underscore pwc, I will say it is $db source. $db source. What was that? This is target, right? So let that be like that. So this I am populating as DB source. So there is $db connection as that. $db, it was just the name of it is very small. $db connection tgt IP. One is meant for source and another is meant for target. So these two are targets, employee insert, employee update. So I am defining the parameter, this value. So now we have two transformations. So this is why we need to name the lookups properly. Now lookup trans, we'd never know whether it is a source or target. But then since I have imported from source, when I imported lookup, I have choose source. So it was showing it is a source connection. So by that way we can understand, but we cannot always drive through that. So it is always recommended to use the name of the name of the table what we are looking upon. So it gives us better understanding on what exactly what is the connection details we can provide. So yeah, for that purpose, yeah, it's good to actually retain that. So one is source and target. Now I can give the values. So one is test schema. I have to use the connection name, whatever is defined in Informatica. It's not the it's not the schema name whatever is available. It is not the username. It is the name whatever is available here in here. So in here, the connection name is in PW ORCL PWC is my source. I need to define my source as in ORCL PWC. So this is one thing. Now, okay, so I need to make sure this is data driven, perfect. In the source, it is not directly coming from Infa PWC. The owner name is HR. We need to define it here. So now, instead of defining it here, let me try to introduce another thing, double dollar thing. I'll define a workflow level variable, or probably I don't want to define the workflow level variable, that's fine. I will say here, did it not say? Okay, perfect. So I'll say dollar schema, source schema equal to HR. So in this case, we need to give dollar. It will not work with dollar. So here I am going to give dollar value. So we are not hard coding anything. Even if my schema name is different in somewhere else, that should be fine. We have given that, but Informatica still will not understand this is this parameter file. So we need to define the parameter file here in the properties tab. So we need to say, okay, let me try to copy the PM source file directory. What is that? Do we have anything anywhere? Okay, what I'm going to do is not log directory, PM source directory dollar PM source file dir. In source file dir, the name of the workflow, then the name of the parameter file is wf employee param. I am going to define the parameter file here, name here. There is a slash missing. Yeah, perfect. Let's try to run the session and see what is actually happening. Before that, let me try to truncate the data because it does not have all the information. It has partial data. Truncate table employee. Perfect. Employee table got truncated. Let's try to resolve errors if we come across anything. Okay, it's running. It failed. Aura tabular view does not exist, it says. Okay, it is perfect. It is perfectly with the thing, whatever is there. So let me try to do one more thing. Let me see the session log if it is able to resolve the complete parameter file. $PM source code. Let me see where was that. info ORCL user info PWC. It is not using HR. That is the reason. So okay, let me do one thing. Let me define the same parameter in here also. That should possibly resolve the issue. Because when I am reading the workflow can actually get the details from here and then get it assigned. So okay, this is another good concept actually. There are few things which can be a global, few things which can be specific to session. So global means it is meant for all things. Okay, for all, irrespective of the session, the dollar source schema is HR. So that is how I can configure. The same thing we can define it here. Source schema, end string, and then I can apply, click on OK, save it. Let's try to run it and see what happens. Okay, it's still not able to resolve it. So there is another way of defining the parameter file. So which is nothing but in the properties tab, p parameter file in here. Let me try to define it here. Okay, even before that, let me try to resolve. There are two ways of defining. So one way is this one. In this only I understood what was actually happening. So here I need to use something called wf dot the name of the workflow name, then session name, all those stuff. That is one way of doing it. Okay, so I can, okay. As we have already defined it, so we will see this session level thing first, then probably we can go to workflow level thing. So whatever is, so there are two ways. One, it is specific to a session and another is specific to a workflow. So the same thing, same file, I'll go and I'll try to define at a session level. PM source file directory. Let me see now what happens. Okay, now let me see if it is able to resolve. It could be the issue with the PM source file directory also. Okay, user connecting to N5 or CL. This is perfect. $HR source schema. It is using an override variable. Perfect. Is not able to. So in the lookup also we have the HR's thing, but then lookup will not be able to find. We have, because we have kind of defined the source schema only at the source qualifier level. So let me try to update the same information in both places. One is source qualifier, owner name, as well as in the lookup. One of the lookup employees here also. It is, let me try to hardcode this one, HR.employees, and then now let me see what is invalid character. Oh, it is trying to resolve as dollar source schema. It's not picking as HR. Define that here also. Source schema. Source schema. It's not in Spring. Okay, let me see another thing. Just make sure if it was just source schema. Perfect. Now let me try to run this one. Perfect, it read successfully. So the thing is, previously it was not able to resolve. Now one more aspect what we need to see is why nothing got actually inserted or updated. Okay, there is an update strategy error. The effective start date row was dropped. There is an error in post. Let me see. I think it would not have populated or something. Effective start date, update strategy. Oh, it was string. This is date time. We need to propagate the port as date time. Let me try to propagate this port. Or let me quickly change this to date time. We change something, so let me refresh the mapping, then save it, run the task. Okay, so still 108 records got rejected. Let me see the reason why they have actually got rejected. Overflow, date time field. Date time field overflow. Okay, so instead of timestamp, what I'll do is I'll just make it sysdate here. Sysdate Sysdate is also capable of getting time. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Now 108 records. So when we are running for the first time, so so there will be 108 records which are going to be inserts because they did not exist in target. So now let's try to run it again. So now no change, so it will go for update. Let us try to do some changes to the target itself and see what actually happens. So when we are doing changes in source, it is perfectly fine. But if we are doing some changes in the target, it is also mandatory to update the hash value, because we changed something in so target, but the hash is corresponding to the previous hash. So when we are trying to update it, the hash value will be matching. So it is always recommended to update the hash also if you are updating SCD column. So let me try to update. Select star from employee. Let me try. I'll try to update few values. Select star from employee. What I'll do is phone number, and then update employee, set phone number as well as phone number equal to 0 LSA, and then even MD5 hash will be 0 for some 10 records. I'll say MD5 hash equal to 0 where row num less than or equal to 10. 10 rows got updated. I'll commit it. Let's see. Now the expectation is these 10 records will go for insert as well as update. Perfect. So 10 records actually came for an insert, and then 10 records already. So there will be an current indicator 0 for those 10 records. So out of all the records, if we try to query employee table with current indicator 0, we should find 10 records. Current indicator equal to 0. So perfect. With now corresponding to these 10 records, effective end date also will be populated. So it is actually getting the time also when we are updating. So one more important aspect which I have ignored. So in case of update flow, never populate the insert as in the insert thing. What I meant is never populate the start date because it is an existing record. It was already prior populated. There is no point of populating it again. Let me try to update another 10 records. Probably let me try to update. Okay, let me try to commit this one. Let's run. Then see how many records, what happens. Okay. Nothing got updated. Probably I need to pick where current indicator not equal to 0. Current indicator equal to 1, and then current indicator equal to 1 and row number less than 10. Perfect. 10 records got updated. If the current indicator is Y as an N, then probably we will not find anything. Let's see now. 10 records got inserted. So if we see those 10 records, whatever are recently inserted, that insert time will be different. It was actually inserted at 1:12, 2 minutes back, and then it got ended at 1:14. So that is whenever update effective start date for update records, update flow. If we start updating, then what will happen is we will have the same value. When I did the update second time, what had actually happened is for the same records for the 10 odd records, I have actually updated the MD5 hash. So that is why it was not doing anything.
Okay. I would have.
Now we'll see how to see the things at parameter file configurations at session as in workflow level instead of a session. So let me quickly remove that at a session level. Session level, I removed this. The two things is I need to make sure, let's suppose safer side, I can have a variable here. So which means at a workflow level, if something is defined at a workflow level, global variables, so it is always recommended to have it in the workflow variables because it can be used by any session. So now if a variable is specific to a particular workflow, we can define something like this. So it is folder name dot wf colon workflow name. Actually, that is how we are supposed to define. So one is global, another is folder name dot wf dot workflow name, or something like folder name dot wf colon workflow name dot st dot session name. So let me try to define just at a workflow level. I don't want to define at a as in very minimal level. So let me try to define at a workflow level. So this is something called okay. Better let me try to create a new param file. Workflow employee underscore one. Now I am going to define this parameter file at a workflow level. Global, it can be used by anything. So now what is the folder name? Folder name in Informatica. So it is test dot wf colon workflow name. We need to specify. So anything defined under this can be used by all the sessions. If we want to make it specific to a session, we can make something like dot st colon the session name. Something like this we can give. Otherwise, yeah, folder name dot wf colon workflow name. This is how we can define. So I need to switch the parameter file to wf employee underscore one. Perfect. This is a new parameter file which had that definition. So I can quickly show you. So I am not using the session level parameter file anything. So it is always good, because if we have to create a parameter file at session level, we have to configure at many places. If there is any change in parameter file, we have to update it at each session. So it is always good to define at a workflow level, because if there is any change in parameter file, we need to change in only one place. Let me try to start task. Perfect. Same thing. So if we see workflow level, if I try to retrieve the workflow log, so what it is going to do is we will see that variables or the assignments, all those things. So if you see here, it was going to open this parameter file. Then what it is going to do, it is going to read all the values, and then it is going to set the values accordingly. So if you see, there is a override value $$ source schema, so that it is trying to set to HR. So the same thing I can do it specific to a session also. So what I need to do is I just need to followed by workflow name. We have to just specify dot st. So this becomes generic as in complete workflow. Now this becomes specific to a session. So if the configuration, so let's suppose some connections may be specific to only that session. So in that case, we can actually define something like this. So we can actually have some informations which are kind of at a workflow level, some information which are kind of at a session level. So I am not defining at a workflow level these variables. I am defining now these variables at a session level. So let's see what happens now. Let me try to open the parameter file. I think, yeah, perfect. This extra trace. We'll try to run the same thing. Perfect. So now let's see the session log. We can see it is capable of reading those connection strings, all those things. So where exactly it is coming? So using override value, from where it is getting? Obviously from the information. I have never hard coded any value at the workflow level. It was actually defined at the, we did not provide any default value here. It was actually trying to retrieve the value directly from the parameter file. So that is how it was trying to HR.employees. So if is okay, this is hard coded HR.employees. If you see the source qualifier query, this we have never hard coded. So this is always coming from $$ source schema. Yeah, this is with respect to two ways. One is at a session level, one is at a workflow level. Workflow level, the thumb rule is we can define something at a specific to a workflow, generic to a complete workflow, or specific to a session. Only thing is folder name dot wf colon workflow name dot st followed by session name. If you have worklet, we need to say wt. So folder name dot wf workflow will be as in worklet will be included in worklet, as in worklet will be included in workflow. So folder name dot wf colon workflow name dot wt followed by worklet name, and then dot st session name, so on and so forth. So that is how it need to be defined.